Gallich won it as a professional too, left-handed
Did he? Yeah.
championship, yeah.
And that's where I met Danny Billy
Danny, yeah.
and Lefty Antonio. And I've stayed pretty close to Danny
Well, what's
Billy
our
over
memory
these
of
years.
each other when we were young?
I don't think we had
You
any
were a lot
contact
younger.
at all.
You're younger, quite a
Yeah.
bit younger than me.
Well, I'm 56.
Well, that's what Pat said.
Yeah. And so I'm a few years younger than
She
Pat.
said the same as her, and she dropped a couple years off her age. She's 58.
Yeah.
She's.
Well, Dan was always,
She does lob too off.
Dan was always so busy, he really didn't have time to,
You didn't have time for me. What do you mean, Rick? Rick's not going to
I
get
mean,
it.
you're dead, I mean, you're dead.
I know. No, I couldn't get a
I
lesson.
have a letter here that he wrote to us in 1940. This letter is 50 years old.
No, it's not.
And I've kept it, so I want you to read it later.
Wow, yes. Gosh, we'll have to get a copy of that.
1940.
Rick, you could get us a copy.
Yeah, sure, I could get down and
That would be
Yeah.
wonderful, could you, if you don't mind.
photocopy
Is there
that.
anything really personal in there that we didn't?
No,
No.
no, I don't think so. Is there?
No,
But-
it
Yes.
speaks about how he
Family.
wished the family were
Isn't it?
closer.
Closer.
Yeah.
But,
Isn't, see, that's
Yeah.
nice.
Oh,
That'd be-
that's
Yeah.
This was the time when he was
Read
ill
a couple
with,
things from
with
it.
all,
Can
pardon
you
me?
read a couple things from it?
Yeah.
That would be nice.
Oh, I don't want to break this glass.
It's amazing how these things roll along. We're making a club history, a history of our club. And I had to, we call them founding fathers, Penny likes to call them
This was
the
written,
founders, not the fathers, but how the club operated. And then go ahead.
it was written in May of 1940. Imagine that. Dear Rick, I am very sorry to hear that you have sickness over there. I hope that when you receive this letter that things are much better. I want to thank you, and I want to thank you for the insurance policy. Rick at the time was in the insurance business, and I think Rick got him to take out an insurance policy. I don't think he believed in insurance at that
No.
time.
Rick was always after him to save his money and invest.
I've been in bad shape off and on for quite some time with that terrible arthritis. He had arthritis and he was taking gold treatments at the time. And I think they were difficult. They were hard to take. I'm in bed now, and I've been there for the last week. But the doctor says I can get up in a couple of days. Let's see if I can. You people having a wing in Muhlenberg, and us in Johns Hopkins Hospital. That time Rick was having trouble with his hip.
Oh,
He
yeah.
had his hip operation, and he spent about, I think it was about a couple of months in the hospital. And Dan at the same time, he was in the hospital.
That's,
Grandma's got a story. She just had a belly.
Well, all I can say is that we are still around and have a family, and that's something. I had a letter from Patsy, and she said, we don't care for her, you and I. That's your Aunt Patsy,
yeah.
Pat.
Yeah, who doesn't care for
He meant.
Pat was
Dan,
saying,
Rick
Pat
and
was
Dan.
saying
it?
that
Oh,
Pat
that
was
Dan
Pat
and
thought
Rick didn't.
that Dan and Rick didn't care for her
I
too
see,
much.
yeah.
Now listen to this.
that's great.
Said we don't care for her, you and I. Oh, maybe I should read that.
Now, watch out.
It's on videotape, we'll skip that.
Yeah, you can add it to your.
That we have a lot of money, that's the reason. I don't know why our family is like that. If she would come over to visit nice once in a while, we would be glad to see her. But we have a very stubborn gang, and there's nothing we can do about it. I think when you get older, they would have more sense. You certainly think different after you have your own family and sickness and responsibility. Let's see.
Make sure you want to be. That's Dad, though. I mean,
Rick, come over when you when you get a chance, and bring the family. You will be glad to see you all. We live at 74 Park Avenue in Caldwell. Caldwell, he said Caldwell. Whenever we have a nice place. Sis graduates in June. Danny has one more year, and he's captain of the high school golf team.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you were captain of Westfield, weren't you?
Westfield.
Yeah.
I should have been.
Patsy and Betty are both in the second grade. I guess your fellow, meaning Sonny, is going to school now too. Well, I guess he was about 6 years old then, born in 19.
So, all right, so that's
34,
probably why I didn't
so-
see you when you were captain of the West school
Yeah.
team. Right.
It was 40, all right, 1940.
Well, that's all for now. The only way I ever write, I have to be laid up. Regards to Nellie, that's me, and the family from Milton, and our gang, Brother Dan. If you need any balls or golf clubs, let me know.
That is so sweet. That's wonderful, Nell. That's just unbelievable. Where did you resurrect that?
Hmm?
Where did you get this from?
That was sent to us.
I mean, but now,
Oh, I had
we're
it.
going back 50 years.
I have it.
Isn't that
We had all
wonderful?
the
Dad,
clippings.
Dad Keegan, thank Dad for that, because he's a saver, and Mom probably would have said, oh, why didn't you save all this stuff, get rid of
Slow
it.
down, Fred.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
But,
terrific.
You're the saver.
You know, Danny, did you ever hear about the early years of your father and Dad, and how they managed, the kids were back and forth from Italy and
That's
stuff like
what-
that? Did you know that? Were you?
That's some of the things we really wanted to get was the town, and Rick told me over the phone today, the town that you came from, the family came from.
Oh, that was Namalino, Italy.
but I wasn't born there, I was born here.
That's where.
You were born here. Was Dad
Dan
born?
was born, just about.
Okay. He's on the boat.
Was he born on
He
the
came
boat?
over from Italy, but later on, he was so ashamed of the fact that he did come over. He wasn't born in Italy. He told me that he was born on the way over. In those days, it used to take a month to get
I
over
heard something
Yeah.
about
on
that.
those old boats, you know?
Yeah.
And they used to hit England and so forth. And he had a problem trying
Citizenship?
to figure where he was born.
Yeah.
So I couldn't tell him, I didn't know. And I said, well, you might as well say you were born here in Mount Vernon. And that's what he had to use from that point on. I don't know, whether he had them change it there or not.
Well, how about
Well, you were
Patsy?
born here, excuse
See,
me.
my father came over first,
All right.
and he,
And what was his name?
his name when he got off the boat was Guglielmo, which is a translation
Antonio,
of William.
Antonio?
Antonio Di
How do you spell
Guglielmo.
that? Guglielmo?
Antonio,
Antonio. Anthony, Tony.
I don't know whether he used Anthony,
Yeah.
but anyway,
How'd you spell that?
The last name.
the last name.
How do you spell?
Well, it's like Guillermo.
D.I.
Yeah.
G-U-G.
And then capital G, U-G-L-I-E-L-M-O, Guglielmo. The G is kind of silent.
Oh.
A lot of them pronounce it Di
So,
Guglielmo.
That's what I
Oh, there
heard.
was a
That's
D?
like Spanish.
Oh, there was a
D
D
in
in front of it?
It
It
was
was,
a D.
I didn't think it was a D.
No,
you
Yeah.
didn't use it,
Yes, D-I.
because
And
my
really?
mother never did speak English, very, very little.
Well,
She
when
came
was the
over a
name,
couple of
when
years-
was it anglicized?
When he was in
Oh,
business.
when
When he was in business.
he was in business in Mount Vernon.
Oh, okay.
He started off cutting lawns. And then he bought a couple of horses and a stable. And he built a great big stable, biggest one in Mount Vernon, 2.5 stories high. So the horses went down the basement in the stalls. And then on the second floor they had wagons and things that you couldn't leave out in the open. he had a carriage they used to ride around in after a while because he became a builder. He built a whole section, a saloon with two stories up above, a grocery store, a bakery, and a big barn that he had. And what else did he build?
Oh, there's a bench in Mount Vernon made of concrete or cement, whatever
That
it
was
is.
the section that he bought. He bought a
And
piece of land.
This bench was in honor of Dad's father, and his name Williams is on it.
Oh,
And
really?
every-
Williams at that
Yeah,
point.
and every time we would go to Mount Vernon at least once a year to visit his
Frank?
people. He has an
Sure.
uncle out there.
The roots, sure.
And then Frank was out there and Patsy was out there. So we'd go out there every decoration day and we'd visit the graves. And Rick would always go by this street where this bench was with his dad's name on it.
Isn't
William, that was,
Well, that's
and it's
fun.
still there.
It's still there?
Still there?
Oh, I'd like to get a picture of that.
Yes.
But
It's still
what he
there.
had there was, he bought a piece of land. You know, he started to do well in a couple of years. And then he put a circle all the way around that piece of land, the inner part, and he built homes on either side. I mean, big homes. And it wasn't for any immigrants because they couldn't afford it. And then he had a bench in the center and a drive all the way around it. Must have had 15, 20 homes on it.
Mount Vernon, I think, was a very exclusive place, wasn't it?
At one
Down,
time
Yeah,
it
one
was.
yeah,
time. There's
down
some beautiful
probably
homes
until
there.
after the
Italians
war.
from the Bronx
Yeah.
used to come up there
Right.
and
I mean,
immigrants
now it's
from Italy.
not, now it's not
No.
very
No,
nice,
no.
but at one time it was.
How did your, Rick, your dad, how old were you and Dad? I mean, I know you all went to, Dad dropped out of school, he used to tell me, the eighth
Yeah,
grade or something.
Yeah, I think he must
Right,
have been.
and he, you know, he went to work as a caddy, and he caddied at Siwanoe, was it, or,
Siwanoe,
but,
They were in the orphanage.
not Dan.
Dan wasn't in the
Oh,
orphanage.
no. No, sir.
Because he was
Well, how
older,
did
right?
When he
Rick-
heard that we were going to an orphanage,
yeah,
he met some friend of his and he went to live with him. Because Dan was 3 years older than I.
all right, yes, okay. Well, he would be 91 now.
So we went to the orphan asylum. When he heard we were going away to the orphan asylum, he heard it from somebody. He skipped and went to live with some friend.
No kidding.
Sure.
I didn't- So, it was, now there's Frank.
Yeah.
I had
Frank
forgotten
died.
Frank.
Frank
Frank.
died.
Okay.
I went to the orphan asylum, Frank, Fred,
Fred.
and Clement. Clement was a baby.
All right. Now,
And
who
he
was,
went to a baby house over there in Staten Island.
okay, who was the oldest? Who was the oldest?
Dan was the oldest.
Your
He
dad.
was the
Yeah.
Oh, yes, 2 years older
And then,
than me.
And then you, okay, and then,
And Fred was, Frank rather,
no, Fred, wasn't
Frank.
Fred older?
Frank
Frank?
was after me. And he was a couple of years younger, maybe 2.5 or so. And then came Fred. And my sister was born after my father.
oh, but Clement's in there somewhere.
Oh, Clement, I
Yeah,
forgot
Clement,
Clement,
and then Pat.
not Pat.
So Clement was
Pat
next to
was
Pat,
born after
okay.
my father died, maybe
Now-
3 months later.
Okay, now, who's still alive, Rick?
Well, Frank and Dan.
The other three boys are alive.
Oh, everybody
The
else.
other three are alive. Clement is a bachelor, lives by himself in Brooklyn. He worked in a clubhouse, in a locker room. Clement did, after I was out of there.
Clement was a pretty good golfer too, wasn't
I
he?
remember Clement.
Clement,
I remember
He
Freddie.
played a lot of
Yeah.
golf. He played in
Yeah.
some public course in Long Island. He lived in Brooklyn then.
Okay, that's why I remember Clement, I guess,
Yeah.
so well then.
he played golf every single day
Every
after
day.
he retired.
After he retired, every single day.
Okay, then I remember going, your mother and my grandmother, for big spaghetti dinners
Really?
at their home. Yes, I do. Now, your dad
Yeah.
was dead, of
Yeah,
course, at that
yeah.
time. But I remember, and the
Westfield or
family,
Mount
no,
Vernon?
no, it was in
Mount
Mount
Vernon?
Vernon.
Mount Vernon, I must have
remember that a couple of times, you know, I mean, they were huge spreads, they were just, and you know, there were a lot of people there, and so, I don't remember exactly, I guess it was a family, you know, it was, all of you, so, I was very small then, I remember that.
When they sold my father's property, because he died when he was 38,
That's what I was, okay.
and
Now, when do you say that was, Rick? Did you, that had to be,
Let's see. Rick was born in
1902.
1902. You must have been about,
yeah, how old were you when your dad died, Rick?
let's see,
Why did he die so young?
when did he die? 1911?
1908, I went to the orphan asylum, I think. He must have died,
He must have been.
short time before that.
Was he died or was he
That's
killed?
right.
When they sold the property, there was no money left. You know, what they used to pull in those days.
Sure.
They said he was heavily mortgaged, the bankers did,
1902.
and all that sort of thing. So when I went to the orphan asylum, there was no way of getting out of it. I was only about 9 years old, 10 years old, something like that.
You must have been about 9 or 10 years old when you were in the
I'll get
orphanage.
that.
And
So that was around 1911
Yeah.
or something like that?
Yes.
And then
All right.
that's right.
Rick had his education in
In the
the
orphan asylum.
orphanage, and then he had a
No.
scholarship, and he was given a scholarship.
To
To
high
Xavier-
school in New York
Xavier
City,
High
Xavier
School.
High School.
Good for you.
But 5 of us from the graduating class were given that chance of going to Xavier High School. They must have made arrangements with them not to charge the orphanage.
But why did he die so young, Rick? I mean,
I don't know.
you don't know what it was from,
I
a heart
don't
attack
There
or?
were
Someone
things
said
that
a
were
heart
said.
attack,
That,
and there were a lot of
but,
rumors.
you know, that other contractors, Italian contractors, who were trying to build their business like he did,
No, there was some, yeah,
you know, something must have gone
animosity,
wrong.
and,
And
sure.
he had a man nurse taking care of him in our home. And
Yeah, yeah,
first thing you know, he
yeah.
passed away.
Oh.
And then came the auction when they got rid of all the property. And the bank told us that, they didn't tell me because I was too young when they sold our property. In fact, the guy had a stand there. And as I say, he built houses, 3-story buildings for people to live in, bakery, you name it. A big barn for his horses and
Mhm.
hay and all that sort of thing. He had one of the biggest barns around.
I didn't think of it, but we have a copy of his will. I think I
Wow.
have it.
But at any rate,
I should have
oh
brought it.
yes,
Oh,
he
I
was
yes.
didn't think of it.
talking
Well, we'll
about
get it
giving
now.
each
We'll
one of
get
us
it now.
education and
You're
all
doing
that.
fine.
But there was nothing left. The bank, I was only a kid then. And, but I heard from my uncles that the bank said there was no money left,
Mhm.
which was unbelievable. Because you only used to get an annual mortgage at that time. You didn't get a 10-year mortgage or 20-year mortgage.
Well,
I
But
guess
they
he
told us
died.
that. I was in the orphan asylum, there was nothing I could do about it. So when I went to put in a couple of years at Xavier, the orphan asylum wasn't offered that privilege of having any students there. So there was 6 of us, first year and 6 the second, and they cut it out. So then I went to live with my mother.
well, Dad went, where did you say he went? He didn't go in the orphan. Who went in the orphan asylum? All the children?
All the boys.
Except
All
Dad?
the boys,
The 4
and my
boys.
sister didn't. She
Pat?
stayed with her mother, my
Yeah.
sister Pat.
Oh, all right. Then, so then,
So they went to Italy.
That's why you went to the
Okay,
orphan
that's
So
asylum.
what I
I
was
stayed
trying to-
here.
Mm.
I would not go to Italy,
so you and Dad stayed here?
see? I
Yeah.
used to meet them, so many of these immigrants that I got to know how things
Well,
were
I-
over there. I'd never come back, I thought, see?
Your
So I
mother
didn't
went
go.
back to Italy.
She went
That's
back.
right.
Everybody except you and Dad?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah,
right.
no.
That's what I was trying to
Yeah.
piece
No,
together.
the others were
No,
in
the
the
other
orphan
boys,
asylum, you said.
Frank stayed and Clement stayed.
You
right?
said they were in the orphan asylum too.
No, they
Yes,
were in the
but
orphan
when-
asylum.
Then we were
So
taken
then
out
you
of the
couldn't have
orphan
gone in?
asylum,
Oh,
They went
oh, they
to
did go
Italy
back
with
to
their mother.
Italy.
see? So they,
All
Oh,
but
I
my
Dad
see.
mother
went
went
Oh,
back
I
with
see.
them.
Yeah.
and I wouldn't
Okay.
go.
That's how Rick got his
Now, did
education.
they go back to the same town?
No doubt.
Yes, they had a fight for the house that my father had left in Italy. Some relative had taken it. I
Well-
probably figured we'd never go back, so she had to
Sure.
have some court action over there
Wow,
to get the house back.
What was the name of the town?
we've got that. You said that before. Rick.
Andretta, Avellino.
Andretta,
Andretta, what's
Andretta.
Avellino?
Avellino, you
Province?
well, the province was Avellino,
Yeah.
not
Oh,
far from
Andretta.
Naples.
Yeah.
Have you been down there, have you two been back there? I mean,
In
Nell.
Italy?
Where?
Yeah, I
Never,
mean,
I was never there.
No.
You
mean
never
to
went
Italy?
there?
Oh, no.
You mean to
Never
I'm
Europe?
afraid I'd
Yeah.
never come back.
because,
Yeah.
I don't know about the rest of the family, but Benny and I are gonna go someday, and I know
Oh,
John and Danny
oh,
wanna.
that would be nice.
I mean, someday we wanna get over there and see the,
Yeah.
town, I suppose.
Andretta,
Andretta?
Is it
It's
Andretta?
not
How do you
far
spell
from,
it?
Naples.
That's what Dad always said. Is it north of Naples? It seemed to me he
It's
always
in the,
said.
it's in the province of Avellino, I'm pretty sure.
All right, well, we can,
You can
do
probably
you think
look
there's
it up.
any relatives over there with,
Oh, I don't think you'll find them now.
well, you gotta be,
Don't forget, I'm 88.
Let's see,
yeah.
his
Yeah, but
mother,
you
I
know,
think
people
his
have
mother had
children.
brothers.
That's right, if y'all
They
came
got
over here, how you
children,
gonna,
Children,
if y'all came here, how you
yeah.
gonna be over there? That's a dumb question, I guess, right?
I doubt it, I doubt it.
Well, his brothers, you know, your dad's brothers and sisters, and the name might still be there,
I doubt it.
Guillermo, right?
Could
Guillermo-
be.
Guillermo
Lots of
might-
Guillermo's
Diglielmo,
over there.
Diglielmo.
Diglielmo. We'll trace them down if they're over there. We'll see if there's any
I don't think
conference.
you'll find anybody
No,
there.
I don't.
I doubt it, very, very much.
Well, that's,
Boy, that lady
You
they
know
had to
what,
kick
we
out of the
wanted
house.
I wanted to hear a little bit about Danny and John,
Yes.
what they've been doing, and, I
Now
never
we're
really had an
talking-
opportunity to talk to them.
We're talking about our family, now why don't we talk about your family?
all right. Then we'll get back to your family.
Or Rick, since this is on video, maybe you could stick with the family, and then
Oh, okay.
while we're
And then
meeting,
later
maybe
on,
we could
okay.
talk about
Right.
You're
their
right.
families,
That's probably a
because
good
they already
idea.
know that.
Yes, we want to
Okay.
really, sure.
Yeah.
Good idea.
I don't know what John.
We'll get yours in. This is something that's priceless. I really,
Yeah.
we've been saying it for years, Rick, and we've been trying to get together, and I'm sure glad we did it.
Well, Rick had a two-year scholarship, he had a four-year scholarship, but he was able to use two of them at Xavier's. Then his mother took him out because she couldn't afford to keep him there. They were asking, then they asked for money, right?
Yeah.
And she couldn't afford it. So then Rick
Somehow or
had to
another,
leave,
they,
then Rick had to
Rick,
leave
get
Xavier.
Come on over here.
That's all right.
Move right over here.
No, I'm not.
Move your
Dad is
He's
holding forth here, he's gonna tell about this, and I think that's important.
Your
So
dad and mother.
But she
Anyway,
was
I
over
went to
here, or?
Italy. And I lived in Mount Vernon with an uncle who was boarding. And I got a job for $6 a week. It was not far from Fifth Avenue and that area at the end of Fifth Avenue. What the heck do they call it? They have a name for it.
Well, you're not,
Right.
Little Italy?
No, it was a
In Brooklyn?
no, in New York City, the end of Fifth Avenue. They
Oh.
have a big circle around, a big park.
Oh, that park.
Washington
I don't
Square?
remember the name
There's
of it.
Central Park.
What is that park right on Fifth Avenue?
No, he's on the
Well-
lower side of Fifth Avenue, so that would have been,
Oh,
that would have been near the
Washington
village, it
Square.
would have been Washington Square.
Washington
Probably
Square.
Washington
Yeah.
Square.
Right, that's where you used to hear the political
Well, I got a
speakers.
job in a place right off Washington Square. And this was in the summertime. The office of the office was on Lafayette Street and Great Jones, or 3rd Street. The one section they called Great Jones Street, for some reason. And of course,
let me take this off.
the office asylum wasn't going to pay for us anymore. So I went to live with my mother in Mount Vernon for a while until she decided to go to Italy, and I wouldn't go.
She went to Italy twice, right?
Yeah. So I didn't go.
Well,
I
Dad
wouldn't
didn't go either?
He didn't have to go because he was living with some friends of his. He wanted no part of Italy.
Hmm. I guess he's never gone back to Italy either.
I guess not.
I don't
No.
think so.
Hungry.
I don't think so, because
No.
it's
You
tough.
know, it might be
It's
interesting,
scary.
Dad, if you told them a little bit about what Shakamatson was like, what the course was like. Dad remembers how they cut it with horses and mowers.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell them a little, and remember he said how you could be at Shack and there was nothing between Shakamatson and the train station, there were just fields there was no development, you
In
could see
Westfield,
all the
you
way
mean?
down, right?
A good part of it, yes, but, when I came to Jersey, I had to find a place to live. My brother Dan then was supposed to go into the service, but my understanding was
But this doesn't.
he
This hip's too
tried to
small.
get into the Marines, and he was too short.
And lucky for him.
You said it. So he went to work in a plant in North Jersey, I forget the name of the town, but he worked there during the war. And he was out here, and I was in Mount Vernon then. Scouting around, trying to make a living, and it was tough going. But then, after a while, he got the caddy master's job at the Shakamatson,
Mhm.
and he had Bobby Cruikshank, Cyril Walker. Cyril Walker was English, Bobby Cruikshank was Scotch, and all the pros were foreigners.
But you came
But
out,
it was a good thing that we were using the name Williams.
yes.
And the reason we used that was because my father couldn't, he had trouble telling his customers before he died, when he was a landscaper. They couldn't remember the
They
name
couldn't pronounce it
Guglielmo.
Yes,
Probably.
yes. You know, it's
So he
ironic.
asked
Yeah.
one of his customers about it, I think it was a doctor. He had a couple of doctors, customers, that he made friends with. And they told him, why don't you translate it?
Mhm.
And they told him what the translation was. So immediately used Williams.
That was your dad now?
That's right,
Yes.
that's right.
It's
Well,
really,
I-
it's really a translation,
So
isn't
we
it?
all
Yes.
used it. When we went to the orphan asylum, they're calling us the Guglielmo. And then I raised the roof, but you couldn't raise much of a roof. There was one man there, for each age group, they had one man in charge. If you ever did anything wrong, I feel sorry. So then, I had an idea one time that they wanted to have a play or something, so that the head priest, coming from the New York City office, could see us in a play. And we had several. One, I did some Indian clubs, you know, those heavy Indian
Yes.
clubs, not the light ones that they throw each other on the stage.
Mhm.
You know, swing them in different
Sure.
parts of your body
Yeah.
and around your back and all
Yeah, they're
that,
pretty good size.
and things like that. And so the head man in that particular, my age group, there were about 100 boys in each cottage. There were 6 cottages, and then they had another place for older boys and that before they were taken to New York City places. They were old enough to, you know, be able to do that. If they couldn't go to a father that was alive, they would go to their mother. If they couldn't help themselves there, then they'd get them a job and all that sort of thing. But there were so many things that happened to me that I can hardly remember the regular routine of telling that story.
Well, the part, Rick, going back to Shack, was that when Dad came out and he heard about this job being open, and then he was caddy master, and then, you know,
That's
he-
right.
under Cruikshank. But then, when did, I know, I read something in these clippings that were saved, that Dad lived in Westfield, and then he went to Plainfield. And I never knew that, you know, he
Yes,
lived
he
in
did.
Plainfield.
Yes, he did, that's
It's-
true.
It said it in the,
He lived in an attic on West Broad Street in Westfield. An elderly lady owned the building, and she let him rent one part of it. She used the other, up the attic.
Near Night Greens or something, remember Night
Night
Greens?
Greens, yeah, that was a
Night
good,
Greens,
that
right
was
on
a
Bidding
the
good.
place up there.
Yeah,
and
there
the-
was,
grocery
yeah,
store,
Night
right
Greens
on
had
the
a,
corner.
yeah.
Yeah, right on the corner.
But, then I got what happened there, I got a job in Garwood, I believe.
But you were in Westfield at that point.
Yes.
This
Was
was
there-
when? What year was this, Ma? This was before you got married, so
Oh,
this was
sure.
in the.
It would be
Yeah.
1990.
She lived around the corner
Yeah.
from me, I didn't even know
Yeah.
her.
So this was about.
But I used to commute from Westfield to Bloomfield, I took Dan's room, he had that room, then he came to Westfield.
Oh,
See,
okay.
after he lost, gave up his job in that plant, he wanted to get back to golf. So he got the county master's job,
All right.
and I think Cyril Walker was the pro then.
Was this in the 20s?
Hmm?
It had to be,
About,
if he was caddy master, it was
1918.
1919.
yeah,
that's,
that's right,
because he said he was there 20 years and it was
yeah,
from
that's right.
1918 to 1938.
38, yeah.
And that included his caddy master time. I mean, that's when,
Right.
you
So
know. he
now,
was-
I came out from Mount Vernon because I wouldn't go to Italy with my mother and family. I wouldn't do it. I hadn't been too long with them anyway. My
Right.
brothers were in the Orphan Asylum. I never saw them. Never saw them.
Well, did they come to
40
Westfield? Rick?
years or whatever.
Did they come to Westfield?
Yes,
Because I remember
yes, they did.
Clement at the club and I remember Freddie at the club.
Yeah.
And I remember Patsy
Well,
lived
they
with us.
came after I
Pat lived with us, Patsy lived with us a very short time, maybe a year.
Oh, she
When I
did?
was very
Yeah,
small,
I think I
yeah, she
remember
stayed
now.
with us. Now, I
That's
don't know
right.
what the circumstances were or anything, but that's how I remember her.
well, when I went to
Where was her
Shakamax
mother then?
to caddy, I lived in Bloomfield. I took Dan's room that he had with an Irish family.
All right.
And I used to commute from Bloomfield on a bus
Or trolley.
or a trolley to Newark and then change over to another bus or trolley or, you
Yeah,
know,
the
it
old
was a
trolley lines.
It was
I
a trolley.
remember, Sure.
So, what do I wanna say there?
Talking
Oh.
about Dan and Patsy.
So now I caddied at Shakamaxon. And Dan says, you know, I would rather they didn't know you were my brother.
That's Dan. He's thinking all the time.
And that was right, he was right.
Sure.
And he
Because
did.
then I could brag about him.
Yeah, you're
And
helping
all
him.
that sort of thing. And once in a while they'd say to me, are you related to him? No, my name is, I forget I took
What
an
name,
American
what
name,
name
but I
did you
don't.
use, Dad?
I'm trying to remember what it was.
Probably
It was
older
an
or something.
American name. It was an American name, and Dan always called me Rick, for Richard. The last name I don't remember, was an American name. So I used to commute to Bloomfield,
Well, that's when you came Rick then, maybe, huh?
see? It could be, I don't remember.
When he
It could
started,
be.
when he
That
started
could have
working.
been, I was always wondering how you
It could have
got
been.
Rick from.
From Rock.
Richard,
Rope.
no, I didn't
Rock,
use that.
Rock.
Well, you used Richard, that's where he got
Richard,
Rick.
yeah, I didn't use
It
that.
was Richard then.
Yeah.
He was a Richard
I
somebody.
forget
You guys
what
were-
it was.
But you were
Whatever you were. Alias.
You two were picking guys.
If I bragged
that's a
about
great story.
Dan's game, as I used to the members, you know, and especially those who were,
With his sister
Yeah.
Sean, who lives in Ohio.
in charge of the clubhouse, or in charge of the
He doesn't remember
landscaping and all
names.
that, you know, men that were members, right?
And his sister
Well, I had to
Sandy,
tell
and
him that he
there
was not my brother, so I had to use
Rick
this
will-
other
Can
name,
explain who's who better than I can.
and that's all I did.
They-
At one time, then he became assistant pro. I forget who the pro was then.
Well, he took over after Bobby
That was
Cruikshank, didn't he?
Cruikshank.
Yeah.
That was after
That was-
Cruikshank, because he wouldn't let him play there either.
Yeah. Well, he became pro, Cruikshank left and then he became.
Then
That's
Danny,
right,
yeah,
that's
Danny
right.
came.
I don't remember who the,
And then you were
Tell 'em
selling
about-
pies, weren't you out there?
oh, and then the clubhouse burned.
Well, before the clubhouse burned, tell them about some of the members that there used to be at Shack. There was some interesting, the Chevrolet brothers. Did you know that?
Oh, yes, they were members.
Really?
Remember what were their names?
Okay, I'm glad you said that.
I think Gaston
And Louis, wasn't it
Louis
Louis?
something, yeah, Louis was one.
Louis.
Okay,
French
two
names.
people I wanna ask you
Father's
about.
name.
And one of them and I'm sure you remember him,
Grandpa Rick's.
probably both of them, father
So
Leo
this would be
Beaver.
Rick's cousin, right?
I met him,
Okay,
And this is
and
Lizzie's
I
cousin,
probably
Sandra
caddied
and-
for him too,
sure.
but
I wanna
not
say
often.
Joe or Joe.
All right, now he was
And
he's
this is
still
her husband,
at
Sandy says
Del
this
Martin,
is his wife.
and he comes up and plays our course with
Oh,
Jerry
he does.
Sasso, and he's still playing now, he's gotta be almost your age.
Yeah, he has to be.
And he was a young fellow there, Chick, they
Yeah,
called him
right,
Chick
also
Beaver,
West
remember?
Hill.
Sure,
Another
And he,
brother,
was a club
of
champ.
He's a player.
Right.
He was a very fine, he was a club champ at Chick.
Oh, he's not far
And
from
then
here.
he,
Right, I can see
I don't know
Fred.
what, all the in between, but he became a priest, and he's still at
Diabetes,
Del
he has
Barton,
diabetes, right.
and he comes up and plays our course regularly.
Can you imagine that?
Yep, and
He's younger
so
than
I knew you'd
He's gotta
remember
be-
him.
sure.
he's gotta be
And,
over
He
80,
was
but
young.
not 88,
Fine
so
man,
somewhere
he
in
really,
between. Yeah, oh, he's a young man, that's
how
right.
about Les Wallach?
Great guy. He was in
Now,
Mount
he-
Vernon.
A
Wallach,
big,
Wallach was,
raw
And this is
bone
his sister. They're just
fellow
the
that
only two
was-
children.
well, he's a member of Mendham, and he's dead now, but he was there, one of the first members I met. And he told me that he remembered me from Shack as a little kid, you know, I was a little kid, of course. And, he was in the, investigating business in airplane crashes. And, I don't know how, I don't remember him in Shack, I remember quite a few of the, really, I would think I would remember him, but he might have been when I was really small. But he says
you
he
were
was,
small.
This is his wife.
I was small, I'm still
He
small.
has been married a shorter time.
Do you remember the time
So
that we
the wife-
played,
oh, gosh,
we had a caddy tournament?
And Sandy's.
I don't remember that one, but you beat me in that one.
I forgot that one.
But what you didn't know, I gotta tell you this. What you didn't know was that we tied
But I really, oh,
on the 18th hole, so we had to play an extra hole,
Oh, sudden death?
sudden death.
Gee,
And we're on the green in
we had to go
two,
down
I
the
believe.
first, the old first now, you go the
Well,
little.
not the short first, because they had
He
made
went on
it a
it.
turn. Yeah, it was a turn. There were trees in the brook, you know, and all.
It was a long par five then, going over the,
Well, you went over the brook.
over
on
the
the
brook,
drive,
yeah, yeah.
and you
Okay.
Which
hit an
first are you
iron.
talking about now, Dad? The short first you went over the brook too.
Yeah, but he didn't mean that.
Oh,
Yes,
no,
right.
no,
You
that,
mean the
they
lo- you
did
mean
away
the
with
par
that.
five.
They did away with
I
that.
mean the tenth.
The
I
straightaway.
don't think he is.
She didn't
No,
leave
this
me,
was
I'm not
around
talking
the
to
bend.
you.
Oh, sure,
Oh, you're
okay,
talking
yeah.
about the dog leg then.
The dog leg.
He's talking about the short first.
Now let me see.
Yeah.
Cause that used to, see, that was the, Danny, they had, that was the first
Oh,
hole, and then they changed it and made the par five the first hole.
let's see.
Oh,
And now
okay.
they changed it, it's changed back now in the short par
Yes,
four.
you're
It's the
talking
first
about the
hole.
one over the brook then. when
First
you-
hole at Shack is a par what?
Par four.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's.
Well, but after the time that you're talking about, they made the 10th the first. They switched the nines around.
Which one did we play, Rick? The par five or the par four?
No, they had a par three in the beginning,
No kidding.
Really?
over the brook, and there was the green, near the road.
Oh, that must have been a par three.
That was a par three.
That's right.
And then you went over a short distance to the tee, going along the road,
Yeah.
along the
Okay,
road. to the
all right.
second.
No kidding.
Oh,
Now,
they
there's
must have
something.
stretched it out. I didn't
That's
know
good
that.
history.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But anyway, getting back to the other thing, I took another name. As I say, I can't remember what the last name was.
But you and I are playing off.
Well, we got in the caddy
You're
tournament.
taller than the, you're
I
taller
was
than
much
the
older
average
than you.
Williams.
So he and I
How
had to play it off because we had an equal score, and I don't remember. Maybe 80 something, low 80s.
You know, our three boys are all.
And we get up there on the
That was
green,
a stocky
and
one,
he
a
doesn't know
skinny
this.
one, and an adolescent one, but they're all about
But,
the same height. They're all the same height. It's good.
He probably didn't even know you were Danny's brother, did he?
You
Oh, no,
probably
he knew-
didn't tell
Oh, he
me.
knew that.
Oh, he knew that?
I didn't tell you.
There you go.
We get up on the green,
This is so.
And Tom and
yeah,
Nancy.
we get up on the green.
And
Yeah.
I think Chris is
And,
5'6", but he's got another inch yet to grow.
I think
he's gonna grow.
that he was in a position of getting a par, and even hole with me.
Right, on the par three.
No, par four.
Oh, this is the second hole.
Okay.
No, it was,
You were just.
at the time we played it, that was the first hole.
Okay.
And,
Yeah, that's fair.
I forget just what happened.
I must have three putted or
He
something.
he three-putted.
He never was a good putter, yeah.
I had figures, yeah, I knew it was going to happen.
And I should have given it to him. So, I
You see that? Should have given it to him.
I don't remember the
But you didn't.
circumstances, but I didn't.
No, yeah. Stood
And he
over there
putted-
watching
He
me.
putted and missed it.
I wish I never brought this up, Rick.
Practically a gimme.
love this.
See? Well, the guy was playing
I'm
with
still
another
doing it.
kid,
You
I
gotta
would have given it to him.
Oh, yeah.
But he was Dan's brother, and it wouldn't look good, a kid like that to beat me.
That's wonderful, Rick.
So he lost it.
That's, that's wonderful.
But he didn't hear me say you got it. He didn't hear me
That's
say that.
great.
Because if I'd given him that, he would have won.
The best guy won, that's all there was to that.
Not
Yeah,
quite.
that's wonderful. Now, you never told me, you kept that from me all these years. Huh?
Oh, and I got a trophy with it too.
Where is
Do you
that
still
trophy?
have that
It's
trophy?
up in my attic.
I think, well, now,
Gee,
listen,
my wife
that's
doesn't
something
believe
I have
it.
you
to
and
get
I are
over.
gonna play for that
He's in
trophy.
his
All right,
brain.
all right. That'll be the Williams
I'm
trophy.
gonna have to bring a ringer in.
That's
You
the
can
Williams.
bring Dan in.
I'll bring,
I gotta get
you bring a ringer and I'll bring a ringer.
But
In Westfield.
that was my
That is
first,
it.
that was my first trophy. And Dan had told me that if I ever go to Newark, well, I used to go through Newark, but at that time, I think I was living in Westfield with a different name. The guy that I bought the trophy from was a jeweler, but he had sold,
Let's see if I can't put some
all
sand
kinds of
on
things.
it.
in Newark. So I went in and picked out this beautiful trophy about that high. And
Be careful now, because that trophy's still around now. Was
It's
it
up
that
my
high?
attic.
Is that really?
How big is it? Is it getting bigger or what,
it's
Rick?
in my attic.
Well, you know, I ought to go get that trophy.
You gotta get it.
While you're having lunch here, and I'll take that back and you can put it on,
Oh, that would be wonderful.
put it on
I mean, I
tape.
deserve it. He should have given
His
me
name
that
is
putt.
not on it.
His name
No,
is that,
but
well,
I
you
mean-
you can present the trophy to him
You-
then,
You should have given me that putt.
I'll
Rick.
ask Mom where
Well,
they
you
are.
know what, Rick? That affected my putting all these years, I bet. If he didn't
Any
give me that putt,
excuse.
Well, he was like this, but Dan, he
Who,
could
me?
have gone out to play, and all that, and I wasn't allowed to play.
Well, he was one of those rich kids that could play golf. And
I remember, it's funny, I guess we're winding up, aren't we? I remember sitting down in that the caddy yard, way down in the back.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
And the big
next to
blacks
the-
would gamble and you
That's
go
right.
out caddy and
Oh,
they'd take your
sure.
money away from you.
yeah.
Well, that was the same. Well, you must. When did you caddy up there?
Oh,
What
I
years?
caddied,
Well,
well,
this was while it was.
I
a
left in
private-
'38 now. I had to be, I was 15, let's see, yeah.
All right.
But I was caddying when I was like 11, 12
All right.
in there,
So
so,
this was
23, 35, in
How old are you now?
1934, 35,
What are you now?
67.
Okay.
No,
So
you
you were
didn't-
up there
you
about
didn't
10
really caddy
years.
when I was up there.
You caddied about
Yeah, I
10
caddied.
years
No.
before I caddied, because I started there. I started in '46, and it was the same.
Yeah.
It was the same setup because they just had when I was there. They just black caddies. Dad said you'd have to go up there and you had to go to work.
Sure.
I was 12, and
Okay,
But
now
all
what
these
year
black
would that have
caddies-
He
been?
caddied for me when I started playing
I
there.
started.
All right,
I
there's-
started at Shack 40, right after the war. It's about 45,
all right.
46.
See, you caddied, Rick, when you, in the early 20s. It had to be the late, 1919,
1920.
1920.
Right.
I'm talking
21,
33, 34,
Right.
that's
I
when,
was back
Yeah.
up there. in
I didn't even
46.
come on the scene. I was 8 years old in 31, so that's when I started playing golf in 31.
You know, he caddied for me when the clubhouse burned. It became a public course.
1942.
Right.
See, then it was gaps.
So I used to caddy, and I used
Yeah.
to tell him,
We weren't there at the
Well, I
same
walked
time.
around. I was just a little kid. But
I
I
used to
remember
ask
when
him,
the
you want to
clubhouse
take up
burned
this
down.
game? Not for me. Who wants to play
When
this
did it
game?
burn down?
42.
We have film, home movie footage of the old clubhouse.
Oh, do you really?
With
That- I
Dan
would
Senior
never
practicing,
remember that.
getting.
Hitting,
shots.
she's got some with him.
I
No
brought some,
kidding.
yeah, if you wanna see him.
Oh, what a
Wow.
swing.
Yeah, he had a great
He
Shot
had-
after shot.
He had slow motion shots and everything.
Is that right?
He was into films early.
Oh, they
One of the
teach you.
pioneers of home movie.
Who was?
Well, Dad, because
Yeah? Oh, yeah.
Jones, remember Jones made all
Yes, he
those
did.
old
Bobby
films, they
Jones
still
had
got
the
'em.
old film.
Well,
Good
that's-
thing Dan
yeah.
had the name of Williams, because he'd never get a pro's job.
Was he
That
tough
time.
then,
They were
wasn't it?
all Scotch, English, and Irish.
So they didn't think he was Italian, is that the
And
idea?
they used to,
Yeah.
those fellows worked in
That's,
factories
that's the
in
bell
over
for
there.
lunch.
That's it?
Penny.
That was it? I should've gone.
Oh,
Okay.
those fellows worked in
Tiny.
factories over there, but they got pros jobs here because they were golfers. That was their
No,
pastime.
there weren't many good golf, weren't many,
What?
there were not many,
Oh,
there
no,
weren't
there
many
weren't that
people
many
playing,
courses.
playing golf then, and there weren't that many really
But they
great
had
golfers.
members
There's
here
no-
from Newark and all over because they didn't have golf courses
Yes,
in that
yeah.
area. See? So,
You know, Dad, you might also tell them about that Japanese, there was a
oh, we got a bunch
Torchitoro.
of
Japanese shipbuilder, wasn't he?
Well, Torchitoro, I remember
Akahoshi.
playing.
Akahoshi.
Well, they had the
His
Prince
family
came up
was-
and played up there.
Hmm?
Prince Kanoya or something like that.
Could be.
I remember the Japanese came up and played the course, and they gave exhibitions. And there were some really good players. And one was a good friend of Dad's, some prince.
Oh,
But
yeah.
wasn't one of the Japanese that played there, didn't he figure prominently in the Second World War? Wasn't he a major
That was
Japanese?
Torchitoro, and they put him in the front lines. But he played up there, and he was one of the finest players. Do you remember his name, Rick?
Akahoshi's.
Oh,
That was
was
their name, Akahoshi's. A family group, there were about 4 of them, came over. One was very good, and a very nice fellow, and spoke good English too. And his family wanted him to go back and fight, and he tried to do away with that argument. But finally, they got him. They got him. He had to go over there and fight. I didn't see him anymore.
They
He was
must
great.
have,
Absolutely.
you know, leaned towards the Japanese in business at that time, because I remember them going up there playing exhibitions.
Oh, we
What
had a
year
lot of
was
Jap-
this?
Japanese.
We must have had 30 or 40
39?
Japs.
Well, this was probably in the mid-30s.
Mid-30s, probably.
But you used
Yeah.
to caddy for me,
Late
Isn't this
30s.
interesting?
and
Oh, yeah,
I
just
asked
before the
you
war.
if you wanted to play,
Now
I'd,
they're coming
I'd
back.
pick
Yeah.
up a few clubs for you.
Yeah.
Who wants to play this game? I'll caddy for you, but that's it. You know, he wouldn't. He wasn't.
Familiar, right?
But
Well,
I
let's go
remember-
eat.
Let's go eat.
Come on.
Sounds good.
Rick, that's wonderful. Total recall. Let me give you that. You're doing good.
We're going this way, I think.
Yeah, it's
Honey, the coffee's
sure
not
is.
ready. I don't know what you're pushing me before the coffee's ready.
Well, I've certainly enjoyed listening to you.
Well, it's a
and
lot of talk, and it
the-
doesn't mean anything to anybody that
Yeah.
wasn't around at
But
the
it's-
time or doesn't know anything.
It's valuable to the family, Rick. It's very valuable.
It is to me as a newcomer in the family. Danny keeps talking about these things, but you've been able to put it together and give it
Well.
perspective.
You
Were you
sure?
a school teacher?
No, no.
When they use the word perspective, I'm always thinking, well, wait a minute. Be careful what English you use, you know.
You know, I see the similarity with you and Dad. Of course, I'm lucky enough to, all these years been in contact with you. I mean, you made it a point to be at the tournaments, and you're either following me or Danny, and so I'm glad we've had these and young Rick, and we've been going to play golf these last few years, and we didn't get to it.
There's a similarity in appearance, isn't there? I mean,
Yes, yeah.
I see
Oh,
that from the
definitely.
picture.
The first time I saw Rick on the hill, Rick might not remember it, but he was behind the 7th green at Shakamaxon. And I told you that was the first time I ever played Shakamaxon. That was a qualifying round for the Jersey Open back in '77 or something. And I felt the presence as soon as I pulled in that parking
No
lot.
kidding. It's
I felt like I'd never seen the course
Yeah.
before, and I felt like somebody was saying, "Put it here, put it there."
A
I shot
strong
one of my
drive,
best
right.
competitive rounds ever.
No,
And then on top of
kidding.
that, I see Rick on top of the hill by the
I mean,
green.
he just stood
And
out
it
from the
was-
crowd, sort of?
Well, there wasn't a crowd,
Oh,
but he
just
was there.
Oh.
First time I think I ever saw you, somebody pointed you out. And wasn't that at Ballsroll, the tournament you were in?
Well, I did see you at Balderswell, but the first time I saw you, I think, was at Shack.
We were sitting behind the green.
Yeah. You had your nephew, right, with you or something, was it?
Cousin, that's
Cousin.
right,
Yeah.
that's right, from Florida.
And that was the last time I saw you. That was in the early '80s, but I saw you before that. You probably don't remember that at Shack, though. And I just felt like somebody was guiding me around the course that day.
He was over
You know?
even Pike Brook. You remember Pike Brook? I remember looking up one day and seeing you over Pike Brook.
He was all over.
I was all over.
You were always there.
Although I did play a lot of golf, we went all over the place from here to we even spent a week and a half down in, where was it? One of the states down along the
Rick, how could be, in 1919, how could Dad, he was a caddy master, not only, he was a caddy master. So how could he get a club with his name on the top? I mean, he wasn't the pro. Brookshank was there then. I'm quite sure of that. How, that's what I
You
tried
sure
to
this came
think.
from Shakamax?
Well, it says Shakamaxon right on it.
Says Shakamaxon.
Sure, Dan.
Maybe he
Wiener.
put his name on it after the year of the,
I don't, unless he got Crookshank to let him have it made, you know, he might have. Although the club might be older and he might have put his name up on the top.
Carl, do you want me to just help myself here? Is that
I've got
it?
a couple of clubs home. At least one wood, practically new, Danny Whitney.
Is that right, Rick?
And I kept it.
Yeah,
I
you
never used it. I'm sure I never used it.
have to give it to young Rick.
Young Rick. Well, he wouldn't use the club that I had in the winter time.
You wouldn't use a club you had in
I
it?
doubt it.
Good thing, isn't it something?
He's got one. Rick says he's got one.
One of these?
Yeah, he's got an old one. Yep.
So he wasn't really alone for
You don't
years.
dare
He had
use
little
these.
children.
These are for keeping. They're
These ones.
extremely valuable. Yep. I mean, to the family, you know, they're. That's just luck I got that one, Rick. I got 4 clubs this year, Rick. These 4, all this year.
Was that right?
Yep, and I mean, I haven't gotten a club for years. But they're coming out of the club. Well, this caddy now, you don't remember One-Armed Joe? A caddy named One-Armed Joe. He's got 2 arms, but he said his father was one arm. And that's why they call him that, One-Armed Joe. But he's 77 years old, Rick. Now, he might have been too young for you to know at that time, you know. But he remembers me caddying up there. He's probably up into the 30s.
When I was in Mount Vernon,
30s. You're long gone, I think, from
when I was
Shaq.
in Mount Vernon, we had a fellow that had one arm.
Maybe that was One-Armed Joe.
He
Maybe
was a
come out
caddy,
from.
but he also used to take dope. The only time I ever saw anybody or met anybody who used to take dope. I used to see him sniffing. I didn't know what he was doing. You know. Yeah.
Sniffing dope.
He'd be out there waiting for the men to come out of the clubhouse, and
I wonder.
he would take a sniff.
He wanted a pioneers for a
Was
wonderful
that-
So I
society.
thought he had a cold or
Did they
something
call him
like
One-Armed Joe? Or he
I
just
don't
had one
remember.
arm?
But it
Was there, do
many
you remember a
years
guy
ago.
by the name of Woodtack? Was he caddying when you
No.
were there? 'Cause he was
You
an
remember the
old
2
timer.
twin brothers, Mike and somebody from Plainfield?
Oh, sure.
Mike and, they were twins.
I don't know whether
And
they were
they were
twins, but
there-
they were brothers.
Well, they were brothers and
One
Mike.
was a caddy master for 1 year.
All right, now, they came from Plainfield, I think.
That's right.
And I remember them, and they were old then. They were there for years, and they were,
You remember Jesse?
you know.
He was an old timer.
How about Mike Minto? Is he the caddy master? Or Sonny Degnan? Do you remember
I
that?
don't remember.
See,
those names.
this is the gap between Rick. Rick is there before I'm there, as far as a caddy. And then there's a gap, and then you're there. So we weren't ever there the same time.
This is gonna
You're in
go
the
on.
20s, I'm in the 30s, and you're in the
You
40s.
play too?
40s, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
runs in the family, doesn't
So
it?
Can't
all
get
those
away from it.
names, but the Mike, these
Hard
Mike
not
and,
to.
Oh, what was that name?
they looked a lot alike. They were Sneaky Pete guys.
Were they Polish?
Well, let's go eat. Come on.
Come on, come
I wanna have
I can't
something.
remember.
on. Were they Polish? I think they were. They weren't Italian. But remember, they were drinkers too.
John, would you prefer
I know about that.
a beer or champagne or soda?
You do
or
remember
something,
them, though,
coffee?
eh?
We have whatever you'd like.
Coffee.
Okay. How about you, Dan? Would you rather have a beer or a soda or something, 2 coffee?
No coffee.
There's the gong
Coffee's
again.
fine for you too. Cup up?
What?
Coffee or?
Anything.
Yeah. Grandpa,
Coffee, tea,
Coffee,
or-
whatever I give him. I love him. I can give him anything.
He knows what to say, Carol.
Oh, he's wonderful. He loves everything. He's so easy to get along with.
He
I wish
reminds me of
everybody
Dad.
were easy to get along with like that.
I
How
love
about
some
you-
of those
how about you, Dan?
stories, though.
What?
Do you like a
Just
beer or
plain
soda
tremendous
versus
here.
coffee or
Like if you have 7-Up or something, or anything like that?
whatever you name? You want Sprite?
Sprite's fine.
You'd rather have that than coffee?
Yes, that'd be excellent. Thanks, Joe.
Pat Mike, part of the history of the club there.
So you had 2 aces this year, Rick, huh?
Yeah, 2 aces. I've had a lot of aces, but
How
I'd
many
rather
you
play
have?
better golf.
Carol or the-
Doesn't
6 or
thr-
7.
No kidding. So it doesn't exactly thrill you anymore.
Really great
It
memories.
never
Just
did,
happened
you know,
years
it
ago.
never, getting the ace never did, because it
You know
was
how
just
many
like,
Dan Senior had? You know how many he had in his
Dan-
career?
Honey,
Dan third.
One.
one.
I wanna say Dan Judy, but
I
it's
think he
Dan
was
third.
with Dan.
Because anybody can get an ace, you don't
Did
have
you
to
want
really hit a
Sprite?
good golf
Danny,
shot.
did you want
Yes.
Sprite?
Thank you
You
very
named the
much.
kids after yourself. You're doing
Yeah.
okay.
You want a little table there?
Here, right here, right here.
We don't have
Table.
to.
Oh,
So
Oh, I think your
Well,
spot.
Rick is not,
Can you put another one over here, son?
Okay.
Rick is a junior, but we don't have it in our.
Want coffee? Can we get
I
you
got
a
some
cup of
coffee, thank you.
Well, let me hear what you boys have been doing now.
I'll bring it to your.
How old are you
What
now,
would like
Danny?
in it?
39.
Or-
You're 39?
or-
And John?
32.
Yeah. Now John, you're working at the shop, aren't you?
Grandpa, you
Yeah.
can just sit down if you want.
Yeah, I mean,